Hey everyone, and welcome back for another deep dive with us.
Yes, welcome back.
Today, we're going to be tackling a figure you might think you already know,
Right.
King Solomon. But we're not going for the usual history lesson here. We've got some fascinating sources that present Solomon's life as this incredible source of inspiration, especially when it comes to leadership. You might be surprised how much his story resonates even thousands of years later.
Yeah, that's right. What struck me about these sources is how they frame Solomon's story as surprisingly relatable. We're talking immense pressure,
Yeah.
tough choices, and ultimately creating a lasting impact. There's a lot we can all learn from his journey.
Okay, so color me intrigued.
Okay.
Before we unpack all that, give us a taste of what we're diving into. The sources mention something about Solomon making this unusual request when presented with, well, basically anything he could want. Plus, there's the sheer scale of the temple he built. And even Solomon, renowned for his wisdom, had his own personal struggles. Who knew, right?
Yeah, it's that human element, that vulnerability that makes his story so powerful. It reminds you that wisdom isn't about being perfect, but about navigating the ups and downs of life with courage and humility.
Right. Even legendary figures are human, just like us. Okay, let's rewind to the beginning. Solomon takes the throne at just 20 years old. His father, King David, had spent years unifying Israel through intense warfare. Can you imagine the weight of expectations on someone so young?
Yeah, it's remarkable how Solomon didn't crumble under that pressure. Instead, he made a choice that shaped his entire reign. Remember that moment where he's offered anything he desires? Instead of wealth, power, or even a long life, he asks for wisdom. What do you make of that choice?
Wow, asking for wisdom over all those other tempting things, that's a powerful statement about his priorities, wouldn't you say? It really makes you think about what you would choose in that situation.
Absolutely. Choosing wisdom reveals a depth of character that's pretty rare, especially for someone so young. It shows humility in recognizing he needed guidance, but it also demonstrates incredible foresight in understanding that true leadership hinges on making sound judgments.
It makes you wonder what kind of leader would he have been if he'd chosen wealth or power instead.
Yeah.
Okay, so this choice sets the stage for everything that follows. And speaking of things that follow, we can't talk about Solomon without talking about the Temple of Jerusalem, can we? The sources describe this monumental structure. It was basically the ancient world's skyscraper.
It's hard to overstate the significance of the temple. It wasn't just a building. It represented national unity, Solomon's deep faith, and it was this incredible feat of engineering and artistry. Planning and executing a project of that scale must have been mind-boggling.
Right. Imagine the logistics involved, coordinating all those workers, materials, and resources. The sources really emphasize Solomon's incredible organizational skills in pulling it off. It speaks volumes about his leadership abilities.
It really does. But beyond the physical structure itself, think about what the temple represented. It became a hub for learning and religious practice, drawing scholars and rulers from all corners of the known world. It's fascinating to imagine Jerusalem buzzing with intellectual exchange, people from all over seeking Solomon's wisdom.
He was like a magnet for knowledge seekers.
But
I bet those conversations were pretty amazing. Okay, so we have a young king who chooses wisdom above all else, builds this awe-inspiring temple, and makes Jerusalem this intellectual center. So far, so good, right? But here's where Solomon's story takes an unexpected turn. It's a reminder that even with all that wisdom, his reign wasn't without its challenges.
That's a great point. Governing a diverse nation, navigating complex politics, and maintaining peace in a turbulent region, those are not easy feats, even for someone as wise as Solomon. And that's where we really see his wisdom put to the test.
So what kinds of challenges are we talking about here? What did he face that really pushed him to use that wisdom he'd been granted?
Well, for one, transforming Israel into a major player on the world stage. It became a powerhouse of trade and diplomacy under his rule, experiencing a period of peace and prosperity that was unheard of at the time. But that kind of success doesn't just happen overnight. It requires strategy and a deep understanding of, well, everything.
Okay, I'm hooked. Tell us more about how he managed to achieve all that. Was it all down to his sharp mind, or were there other factors at play?
That's what we'll dive into next. We'll see how Solomon used his wisdom not just as a brilliant thinker, but also as a shrewd diplomat and a skilled administrator. Buckle up because things are about to get really interesting.
All right, so we left off with Solomon facing the immense challenges of leadership. He's got this incredible wisdom. He built this magnificent temple, but now he has to prove himself on the world stage. It kind of feels like that moment in a movie where the hero has trained really hard, but now it's time for the real test.
That's a great analogy. And you're right, this is where we see Solomon's wisdom really come to life. He manages to transform Israel into a global powerhouse, not just through military might, but through trade and diplomacy. He understood that true power comes not just from strength, but from strategic alliances and a thriving economy.
Okay, so walk us through this.
Yeah.
How does he actually pull that off?
Right.
The sources mentioned he was this master strategist, but what did that look like in practice, given the details?
Well, one of the things that stands out is his approach to diplomacy. He understood the importance of building relationships with other nations, not just for peace, but for economic prosperity. He forged alliances with neighboring kingdoms, securing vital trade routes, and opening up new markets for Israeli goods.
So he wasn't just making peace treaties, he was creating win-win situations where everyone benefited. That's smart. It's like he understood that collaboration, not just competition, was the key to success.
Exactly. And that takes a lot of wisdom and foresight. He had to understand the needs and motivations of other nations, navigate complex political landscapes, and find common ground where everyone could prosper. The sources even suggest he was a skilled negotiator, able to broker deals that brought lasting benefits to Israel.
It's pretty inspiring, actually. It makes you realize that wisdom isn't just about being smart. It's about using your knowledge to create a better world.
Yeah.
But there's this other side to Solomon's story, right? The sources also hint at some personal struggles despite all his success. It's kind of a surprising twist, like finding out your favorite superhero has a secret weakness.
It is a surprising twist, isn't it? And it's something that makes Solomon's story even more relatable. It reminds you that even the wisest among us are still human. We all have our flaws, our vulnerabilities, and our moments of weakness.
So what exactly were these struggles? The sources mention choices he made in his later years that tested his faith and even caused some division within his kingdom. It sounds pretty serious.
Well, it's important to remember that we're looking at events through the lens of history, and interpretations can differ. But essentially, as Solomon amassed more wealth and power, he also began to accumulate wives and concubines from various nations. This was partly a diplomatic strategy at the time, meant to solidify alliances through marriage.
I remember learning about royal marriages being like political power moves back in the day.
Yeah.
But how did that lead to personal struggles for Solomon?
It seems that some of these relationships led him astray from his devotion to God. The sources suggest that he allowed the religious practices of his foreign wives to influence his own beliefs, which caused concern among his people. They saw it as a betrayal of their covenant with God.
It sounds like his personal life started to clash with his responsibilities as a leader, almost like he was being pulled in two different directions.
That's a great way to put it. And this is where the sources offer a really interesting perspective on wisdom. It's not just about making smart decisions in general, it's about aligning your actions with your values, even when faced with temptation or pressure.
That's a powerful point. It's easy to think of wisdom as just being really smart or knowledgeable, but it sounds like it's also about integrity and staying true to yourself, even when it's difficult.
Exactly. It's about knowing yourself, your values, and your limits, and then making choices that reflect those things. It seems Solomon may have struggled with this balance in his later years, despite his incredible wisdom in matters of state and justice.
It's a reminder that wisdom is a journey, not a destination. Even Solomon, with all his gifts, had to face those internal battles. It makes me think about times in my own life when I've struggled to make the right choices, even when I knew better.
We all have those moments, don't we? It's part of being human, and that's why Solomon's story resonates so deeply, even thousands of years later. It reminds you that even the most accomplished individuals face challenges, make mistakes, and have to grapple with those internal conflicts.
It's a good reminder that we're not alone in our struggles. Even legendary figures like Solomon faced the same human dilemmas that we might be facing today. Okay, so we've talked about the challenges Solomon faced, both in leading his nation and in his personal life. But let's shift gears for a moment and focus on the incredible legacy he left behind. The man is still quoted today.
Absolutely. Think about it. Solomon's contributions are vast and have stood the test of time. He's credited with authoring many of the Proverbs found in the Bible, offering wisdom and guidance on everything from relationships and finances to character and leadership. What are some of your favorite Proverbs or ones that have really stuck with you?
Oh, there are so many. But one that always comes to mind is, as a face is reflected in water, so the heart reflects the real person. I think it speaks to the importance of authenticity and self-awareness.
That's a great one. And it highlights the timeless nature of wisdom. The insights Solomon shared in his Proverbs continue to resonate with people across cultures and throughout history. You can open up the book of Proverbs today and find advice that's just as relevant now as it was thousands of years ago.
It's amazing, isn't it? And we can't forget about the Temple of Jerusalem. It was not only a marvel of architecture and engineering, but also a powerful symbol of faith and unity for the Israelite people. It must have been awe-inspiring to see it in person.
I can only imagine. And even though the original temple was destroyed centuries ago, its legacy lives on. It remains a potent symbol in Judaism and continues to inspire awe and wonder in people of all faiths. It's a testament to the enduring power of human creativity and faith.
And let's not forget about Solomon's impact on Jerusalem itself. He transformed it into this major center of trade and diplomacy, putting Israel on the map during his reign. He really left his mark on the world, both literally and figuratively.
He certainly did. Under his rule, Israel experienced a period of unprecedented prosperity and influence. And that's something we shouldn't overlook. He used his wisdom to create a better future for his people, not just for his own personal gain.
So as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I think it's clear that Solomon's story isn't just ancient history. It's filled with timeless lessons about leadership, wisdom, faith, and the complexities of the human experience.
Well said. Solomon's journey, with all its triumphs and complexities, continues to inspire and challenge us today. It makes you think about your own journey, your own aspirations, and the legacy you want to leave behind.
And that brings us to a crucial question for you, dear listener. Now that we've explored Solomon's pursuit of wisdom and the full arc of his life, from its dazzling heights to its more challenging moments, it's time to turn the focus inward. What resonates with you?
That's right. We want to leave you with something to ponder as you continue on your own unique journey. Imagine you had the chance to sit down with King Solomon and ask him one question based on everything we've discussed today. What would that question be?
Let that question simmer as you go about your day, because the most valuable insights often come from the questions we ask ourselves. Now get ready for the final part of our deep dive, where we'll pull together all the threads of Solomon's story and explore what it means for us in the here and now. Welcome back to our deep dive into the life and legacy of King Solomon. We've journeyed through his rise to power, explored his incredible architectural achievements, delved into his profound wisdom, and even uncovered some of his personal struggles. It's been quite a ride, hasn't it?
It really has. And it's fascinating how Solomon's story, despite being rooted in ancient times, still feels so relevant today. It raises all sorts of questions about leadership, wisdom, and the complexities of human nature.
Exactly. It's like looking into a mirror across the centuries. We see ourselves reflected in his triumphs and his struggles, and it prompts us to think about our own paths and the legacies we hope to create.
That's a perfect segue to what we want to explore in this final part of our deep dive. The idea of legacy. What will be your enduring contribution? What mark do you want to leave on the world? It's a big question, but it's worth pondering, isn't it?
It is a big question, and honestly, it can feel a bit daunting, but it's also exciting, right? It pushes you to think beyond the everyday and consider what truly matters in the grand scheme of things. So how do we even begin to answer that question? Where do we start?
Well, I think one of the most important things is to remember that legacy isn't just about grand gestures or monumental achievements. It's about the impact you have on the world around you, both big and small. It's about the lives you touch, the values you embody, and the contributions you make, no matter how seemingly insignificant.
That's a good point. It takes the pressure off a bit, doesn't it? It's not about building a temple or becoming a legendary king. It's about living a life that matters, a life that makes a difference.
Exactly. It's about using your unique gifts and talents to leave the world a little bit better than you found it. And that can take many forms. It could be through acts of kindness, creativity, mentorship, or simply by being a positive force in your community.
So thinking back to Solomon's story, what are some key takeaways that can guide us as we consider our own legacies? What can we learn from his experiences?
Well, one of the most important lessons, I think, is the power of seeking wisdom. Solomon didn't just stumble into it, he actively sought it out. He recognized that true leadership, true success in any endeavor, requires the ability to make sound judgments, see the bigger picture, and act with discernment. He understood that wisdom was the key to navigating the complexities of life.
And he wasn't afraid to ask for help, right? He went straight to the source, so to speak, when he asked God for wisdom. He recognized his own limitations and sought guidance from a higher power.
That's right. There's a powerful message in that. It's about recognizing that we don't have all the answers, that we need guidance and support along the way. And that's something we can all apply to our own lives, whether we're facing a major life decision or simply trying to navigate the challenges of everyday life.
Another key takeaway is the importance of using our talents and resources for good. Solomon didn't hoard his wisdom. He shared it freely through his Proverbs, his teachings, and his leadership. He used his gifts to build up his nation and to promote peace and prosperity. It's a reminder that our talents aren't just for our own benefit. They're meant to be shared and used to make a positive impact.
Absolutely. It's not enough to simply possess wisdom or talent. We have a responsibility to use it for the betterment of ourselves and others. It's about making a conscious effort to contribute to something larger than ourselves, to leave the world a little brighter than we found it.
So bringing it back to you, dear listener, what are your passions? What values do you hold dear? What skills and talents do you possess? How can you use those things to make your own unique mark on the world?
Think about the causes that move you, the people you care about, the problems you see that need solving. What contribution can you make, however small, to create positive change? It doesn't have to be grand or earth-shattering. It just needs to be meaningful to you.
It could be something as simple as being a supportive friend, a loving parent, a dedicated volunteer, or a creative innovator. Or it could be something bigger, like starting a movement, advocating for social justice, or building a business that provides jobs and opportunities for others.
The point is, we all have the potential to leave a legacy. It's not about achieving fame or fortune. It's about making a difference, however big or small. It's about living a life that reflects your values and leaves a positive imprint on the world.
And as we wrap up our deep dive into the wisdom of Solomon, we encourage you to continue reflecting on these questions. What will be your enduring contribution? What legacy will you leave behind?
Remember, the journey toward wisdom and creating a meaningful legacy is ongoing. It's not about reaching a final destination, but about continually learning, growing, and evolving. It's about striving to become the best version of yourself and using your unique gifts to make the world a better place.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the wisdom of Solomon. We hope you found it insightful, inspiring, and thought-provoking. And remember, the power to create a lasting legacy lies within each and every one of us. So go out there and make your mark on the world.